Hello, friends of Komodo platform. Hello, friends of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, crypto assets, crypto technologies, friends of technical analysis, charts and curves, graphs, friends. Yes, welcome, friends of Elliott Wave, neowave, and all kinds of thinking about price charts, market action, mass psychology. Hello, I'm Juliano. It is the 11th of December of 2021. Here to talk about the BTC price chart mainly. And so I'm going to share the screen here. So welcome. If you're joining, hit the like button if you so please. And sit back, enjoy. It's a weekend, it's a Saturday. And it's time to ponder and consider time and price in market action as graphed in this Bitcoin price chart. Now, a few ideas here. The main idea here is the whole expansion through time and price. It's going to come to play as we, whoa, spoiler alert, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. But as we start going through the increase of the time and the price, imagining that price will continue to increase, there's this sense of expansion, okay, through the whole thing, and it relates to each other. But here are some ideas as we can look at it all together, but as we dial in and try and look for changes of trend, reversals of direction of significance, we start looking and zooming in into smaller sections of the chart. And the idea is that no single time scale will work for all analytical purposes. And that's due to the flexible nature of time. And this flexible nature of time, okay, relates to this expansion through time and price, and the idea of the expanding Elliott wave pattern and those kinds of things. And well, we come to fractals in a moment. So the idea is that time is not absolute, but variable. So that's the flexibility there, having to do with Einstein's theory of relativity. So firstly, shout outs to Glenn Neely and neowave method of Elliott wave thinking, because that's definitely a big part. Well, that's where all these ideas are coming from. Basically, the quotes without the quotation marks. And same thing with the ideas to come about directional and non-directional price action. So time is not absolute, but variable according to the Einstein theory of relativity. And for market action under the Elliott wave theory, time is dependent on the mass psychology. So the mass psychology influences the scale of the time that we look at. So due to the psychological influences, the time will expand or contract as the financial and economic hopes and fears of the masses. So the price is really the hopes and fears of the masses, and it's and the time itself seems to shift between faster and shorter and sideways versus trending. So that kind of idea, I think, I don't quite, for me, I'm just digging into this. I don't quite understand this. Really, this is very metaphysical. But anyway, no single price scale will work for all purposes. Okay, that's basically the idea we're getting to here. And that's due to the dynamic and fractal basis of price action. So this idea of a dynamic and fractal basis for price action, and therefore time. Oh, I really hope that says, yeah, no single price scale. So price patterns develop. So this has to do with the width and the height, right? The price patterns develop simultaneously on all dimensions, large and small. So these patterns are happening large and small. It's very fractal in nature. And basically the idea is dynamic and it expands and contracts, expands and contracts. So here we have the general idea of expansion through time and price, because overall the whole life cycle here is one of expansion, at least for now, right? Before we get some sort of sideways action, it's clear that we're in a very much expansion of BTC price. So what have I done here? Well, the next idea to come into play here, so we're gonna hide this, thank you for that. The next idea here is the directional action versus non-directional action. So the idea here becomes, okay, when we're looking at any price group, we want to look at basically a square. Now, firstly, to be mentioned, this is very rough. I'm not actually doing the proper rule of proportionality. Let me restate that. For the proper strict formulation of Elliott wave, neowave, there's a rule of proportionality which I'm not following, but the general idea and logic of it is being followed, and I think that'll help us enough generally. So, so what's the idea? The idea is that the whole price move will fit into a perfect square. So you can, and now I'm understanding this more. So I didn't quite understand it before. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. I did a bit, but not so much. And now I realize it's basically about expanding the market action to fit into a perfect square. Now, maybe we want to take it smaller. Okay, but it's still a perfect square. Does that make sense? And then from there, if it's trending, it'll go either from the bottom left to the top right, or it'll go from the top left to the bottom right. And that's either trending up, as you can tell, or trending down, as you can tell. And then there's sideways action. And sideways action is going to, as you'll see, still take up part of the perfect square, but it will be neutral. And so it'll either start at the top left, or it'll start at the bottom right, sorry, the bottom left. So top left or bottom left, depending on, did the price come, was it trending down and now it's going neutral, or was it trending up and now it's going neutral? Okay. Now, from here, some of the thought process is along the lines of, here's Bitcoin price chart against USD. This box is here. I've gone back in time to roughly 2008 October, okay, where it's basically 0 cents. I mean, it's 1 cent here, where we can imagine in 2009, I don't know anybody who's, I guess you could get multiples for 1 cent, so they could be left. You get the idea. We're starting from scratch. To me, the idea of this expansion through time and price, and it's interesting, it brings up Einstein's theory of relativity, because in some sense, this gives me the feeling and the sense of like, of a, how do you call it? Like a Big Bang and a universe expansion. Okay, now. So we started at 0 in time and price, but so if we're going to say that, then maybe this is 2008. So this is 20 years later. This is 20 years, a couple 22 years of price action. But anyway, this is all speculation in that sense. And the idea came to me also, you know, graphical functions and squares. And so who knows what type of function will ultimately fit here, but the ideas of like square root functions comes in. Now I'm just amateur everything. None of this financial advice, none of this is chart advice, math advice, but hopefully this is educational and entertaining for you. Okay, we go into this a little deeper now. So what's the idea of directional action versus non-directional action? We can get some examples of directional action here, okay? And then within it, we could probably pull this as directional, and then this as non-directional, and then this part as directional, this as non-directional. Make sense? Okay. So that's the different, like the price actioning at all levels. Okay. Where do we start here? There was price action before, okay, in BTC. But what am I trying to do here basically is to come to 2021 and say what kind of, we already have these lines that were outlined from previous measurements we made in previous videos. So now the thought is, how do these price actions relate to each other? Can we find any relationship? What's going to happen? Now, the whole box here, the idea is like Bitcoin to $10 million, really. Now, at some point in 2030, maybe $10 million is not going to be $10 million anymore. Maybe the old $10 million, which will be replaced by some CBDC, USD CBDC type thing from the Fed Gov, bank, whatever. Maybe that thing gets changed in terms of order of magnitude. And at that point, the old $10 million becomes the new $1 million. You go in order of 1,000. Anyway, that kind of idea, where now maybe goods are priced at cheaper prices because the dollar value that gets traded off becomes that. You know what I'm saying? All right, that's that idea. Let's play with that idea now. Then this here is about $10 million. Okay, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 7, 8. And it's around 2030. I mean, ultimately, as we're going to see with these smaller boxes here, in terms of this small box, and then whatever you want to say about this and other things, we can make it smaller, maybe to 2028. Who knows what the time frames are going to be? And is it going to be 10 million, or does this box really, is it going to be around 1 million? What is going to be the price where on this type of graph it finds its non-directional phase? And maybe as a life cycle, that's how it has to be, where it just has to exist out there in the inertia of time and space. But who knows what's going to happen, right? Oh, it's brilliant. I'm just so interested and glad to be sharing this, and I hope that it's of value to you. So what's this idea? I don't know. See, I changed the orientation of the square, and now the arc has changed. So I'm just going to get rid of the arc. That arc was basically the idea of that price action. So now we're going to get more deep into the directional versus non-directional action, and not so much about the expansion through time and price. We're just going to start looking at what are some periods of directional and non-directional, and then we'll take a look at some relationships between them. So we can get rid of the big box, and we'll just come in here and look at some price. So, a lot of people were saying possibly like, oh, this period here, whatever this correction is going to be, is going to be like the 2013 period. Okay, cool. Now the idea of expanding and expanding market cycles and all that kind of stuff seems to play in nicely. Oh, there we go. So I'm gonna just get rid of this for now. And this thing here too, because who knows, but that's basically the idea, right? And maybe this, so this is the idea that even though we have these ups and downs, Elliott wave theory would say that, okay, well, maybe these are part of a bigger move. And especially if we are expanding, maybe we're at a point now where previously we just had, small, just kind of narrow moves up. In fact, the nature of this whole move here, up and sideways, is interesting compared to this one here. This was extremely expansive than compared to this one, although the time relationships are quite interesting. We'll take a look at them anyway. All right, we're on a logarithmic scale as well. That's why it's not linear. So the expansion from 0 to whatever it was, 1,000 is massive. Okay, so what are we saying here? The idea is that in our current move, we could be containing a sideways move within a bigger upward trend, right? Where we had first this and this, and maybe like, I don't think this is the exact shape and size and everything, right? I'm just giving an idea here. Okay, this one brings us to what, 1 million by 2022 October. So, I mean, is that going to be it? In that case, the square would look something like this, and we'd be stepping up, and we'd have like one wave up and down, and then another wave up and down, and then another wave. That would be a big fifth wave. So in that fifth wave, it might be having, smaller things like this that are contained here. But anyway, so we can get rid of this bigger box. Again, none of these are really meant to be the exactitude. It's more about the thinking and the thought process and coming back now as we do to these levels, vertically with the time, horizontally with the price. And then in terms of Elliott wave, we have a nice potential here for a flat pattern. And who knows where it'll land and what it'll ultimately look like. But I wonder if we're going to start to see shapes shaping up more clearly. We'll see. The market is always out to get itself. So what is happening here? We have some trends and some sideways. So in the trend, we're going from bottom to top in this case, because they're all uptrends, really. We could take some downtrends that go from top to bottom, but then they would be within a different period. It's clear that we had up moves and then sideways moves, up moves and sideways moves. We're currently in an up move and now a sideways move. That's the basic idea. Okay. So we're just wondering, all right, these previous times, like we have two times that are on this line here. We have one time that's here and then one time that's here. So these earlier ones are like the January month, which in the weekly time chart is about the end of January. This one's about the end of February. And in fact, on the weekly, I don't know if the two line up. And then there's this one at the June month. In fact, let us just quickly divert to the weekly. Yeah, they don't line up. So this one is end of February. This one is beginning of February, closer to the January 24th. If you want to know the idea of these ones, this is something you can see in the previous videos. Okay, so this is the weekly price action. So you can see from bottom to top, let's say, and then the sideways will encompass half of the square on a horizontal basis. Okay, and it will either be on the top half or the bottom half, I guess you would say, and in this case, top half here, and it'll exit somewhere near the halfway, but it doesn't have to. Yeah, as long as like the lowest price from top to bottom is roughly around the half. So this is also why, I mean, there are other reasons, trend line reasons why this whole thing becomes the sideways action. And I know there's a lot of counts that have like a Elliott wave counts that go 1, 2, and maybe now 3, and into a 4 and a 5. And I think that's valid too. I don't know exactly what is the best way to do it, but my first instinct for now is that we're only just beginning this next move on this wave here, and this square would encompass basically up to that, the March lows would be of 2020 would be the sideways corrective action there. And there's one thing I wanted to note, interestingly, there is this week here on this Bitstamp chart, at least, of June 2016, the 20th of June week, and in the monthly chart, which we'll go back to, is a 20th of June week, the June 2016 month, a significant price action, which is an anomaly and it's only considerable just in the sense that when I use trend lines, it actually lines up nicely with the inflection point where it says maybe this whole square here is the correction. And even though we have the lowest of the low here, it might not have to end right here. Maybe it ends either here or even here. But I think that this price action was interesting to see based on where the trend line hit, which was about here. Because as you can see, it's broken up based on trend lines, actually. If we go in here, and we take, where are these trend lines here? We take these trend lines, we have, let's say, this move here to here, right? Because if we talked about this kind of idea before, but let's say we put it here at this low right here, then we have a lot of market action below it. But based on the kind of ideas here, especially as they're adjacent to each other, really, it's like, okay, you should be able to touch. And when they do touch, these are significant areas. And you see, like, this is probably a significant point, even though it went down and then almost retraced it by nearly by 61%, it retraced from bottom to the top here. But again, I'm not an expert on any of this, but it's some sort of ideas here based in that type of logic. So let's get into it. Yep, you know, directional is going to be these ones here, 1, 2, and 3 here. You could probably start seeing it within the price action, like for example here. Whereas but within this is just directional action within the non-directional action, just like you might have non-directional action here, or even like I'm postulating here within a bigger directional action, like here. That makes sense. If this is a 2014 right here, you understand? And then 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, okay, and 2021, yay. All right, let's do a bit of time analysis, considering again that we have some time frames coming up either soon at the beginning of 2022 or about midway. Yeah. Okay, now let's go. We take some time tool. We're going to say, all right, let's look at the degrees. Let's talk degrees. Let's talk degrees. Let's talk degrees. Okay. There is this whole degree here, I would say, matches with this degree here. Does that make sense? And now we are forming something of the same degree, okay? But this degree here, I would say, does not match with all of this degree, in my opinion, on this whole chart. I think that this degree, this current degree we're in, whether it starts there or whether it's this whole thing here, I think it still has at least one more smaller degree thing to make, if not maybe two, especially if we're not counting this part with it, but instead if we're just counting, counting like all of this, there might be another directional, another non-directional of the same degree as this non-directional and this directional. Does that make sense? I think because these degrees now are expanding, so that something that's going to equal this or even this will itself probably have to be of an expanded set of degrees. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. These are just some current thoughts as I'm going through. Okay, and maybe in fact, because there was the previous market action that we don't get to see in this chart, maybe in fact it was that one and this one which were similar degrees, and then in fact it becomes this, and the next stuff that has to equal a similar type of degree. But anyway, that's just the thinking. Okay. Now, I hope you get the chance to go into your own charts that you like to do and enjoy. Okay. I feel like Bob Ross. Okay. Next, let's look at the current time frame. So here's the deal. This is why this seems like a degree. It's because the significance of the trend line touch points. Okay, does that make sense? Then we get this trend line touch point. We'll start from here, and in fact, this March low here is a significant point. And I think that because of that, this move here is not a completion, and instead we get to use this kind of trend line. And when we expand it and we use, now again, this is not proper neowave ideas, but this whole thing can participate as one price action sideways, and then we get our next trending. I don't see why not. Okay, yeah, that's the sense I'm getting. All right. Oh no, don't want that, but I do want these. So let's get rid of these trend lines just for fun. Oh wait, I just would like to say that's why I'm getting a sense that this next activity here, when we'll zoom in, starts around here. Okay, we could say it starts here, this area here, and then we start going here, because with wicks, that's fine too. However, even with a wick down here as this has a significant low, the new trend could actually start around here, but it doesn't really matter. On a candle basis, I like it the way we have it here, ending here and starting here gives a nice equality to this whole piece here. And then we get a simple and straight up trend up here. All right, cool. So now let's look at this current action and compare it with, see, I would say now this idea of degree is that this, whatever degree we're in here, okay, is either going to be similar to this type of degree, okay, more relatable to this type of degree, even though I think that if we look at it, this type of wave is itself similar to this whole thing, but is only a piece of this bigger action, whereas this is not even, yeah, it's of smaller degree. However, because I guess what I'm saying is that, actually, no, don't worry about it. That's basically the idea. Hopefully it's making sense for you as much as possible. So yeah, this, like, because I guess what I'm saying is there's the A, the B, this C type of idea. And so maybe this C will be similar to this whole move here. No, sorry, not this whole C. The whole ABC will be similar to just this C, that kind of idea, in the sense of degree. But anyway, because I don't think this whole thing here and this whole thing here are going to be the same degree as this whole thing here. Does that make sense? Sorry, it's even this whole thing, this whole thing here. Okay. Even though it looks big and long, now we're going to take time tools and we're going to compare them. Okay. And then we can compare this one with the smaller one. And we can also compare this one. We'll start looking at some of the uptrends. Okay. We can also, we can compare this one with this one back here. All right, let's get to it. Let's get here. I guess I should have kept it at a bigger screen. Sorry if that's not to your favor. Okay. So let's just go with time. The idea being, though, here, I just want to say, like, these are rectangles. And when we, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. When we look at, let's say, this directional time, okay, I know it's a long rectangle. So then we expand it here and we say, okay, if we make it into a square. I know it's not exactly perfect square, whatever. And again, this is not precisely how it's meant to be done. There's even more work to be done to do like proper neowave charting analysis. Then we get to this correction. And so now we'll expand it and make our square. Okay, and this is how we would look at this action. And anyway, that's basically the idea, right? So each one of them, each one of these actions that we would look at would be slightly different, how do you say, proportions, really, in the sense that because the mass psychology that was happening at these times makes it reflect itself that way. So then we would have this type of action here, remembering that this is basically where we exit. I mean, this would probably have to come down here, right? Does that make sense? If you're going to count it from the wick and you're going up, but that's the idea. So let's just go back here though for now. All right, let's get back to the time tool. Where are you, time tool? Where are you, mouse? There you are, time tool, Fibonacci time tool. Let's compare this correction. We'll go there. To this correction. So this is the 2014, 15, 16. And this is the 2018, 19, 2020. And in fact, so the purple line is going to be 1 to 1. All right, the green line is going to be 61.8. So this is probably 78.6. 0.786. This square is about 0.786 compared to this square. Interesting. And then we'll compare this square here. It would be roughly like if we are stopping at one of these times, okay, the closest is 33%, 1/3 is right here, which is the amount of time between the amount of time. No, it's like just after the A plus B equals C, and also the other format, which was this move up equaling this move sideways, a 1-to-1 relationship between this trending move and this corrective move. But anyway, okay, so around that time, like that would be only 33% of it. So this is much smaller than this and this. For it to be 1-to-1, for this correction here, this quote unquote bear market to be the same as this and this degree of time, it would be on the logarithmic scale here with price as well. It would be January of 2024 would be a 1-to-1, all right? With this price. If we were gonna compare, let's go here and here. If we're gonna compare it with the 2018, 19, 20, then 1-to-1 would be June of 2023. So we had January 2024, if we're comparing to this, June of 2023 to be 1-to-1 with this whole sideways action here. And then, yeah, that's pretty interesting. So now you see that there's definitely a good chance that let's compare this with something smaller and see what does that relate to. So we'll compare it to this part of this whole degree here. And we can, if you want, we can compare it to this part here as well, which I haven't done yet. Okay, so let's compare it to this part here. We basically hit a high here. So we'll start it here, and it can be off by 1 or 2, but basically here is 1-to-1. 1-to-1 is actually at the yellow line, where see this yellow, oops, I'm pointing with the wrong thing. See this yellow dotted line? That is 1-to-1 with the A wave. So if we had an A, B, C, the 1-to-1 purple line is the same already as that. So if we basically have the same amount of time or degree as this correction here, like a portion of something bigger, we're near it. Now, am I saying that means exactly that we're gonna have this ABC correction where it takes the same amount of time, this C wave takes the same amount of time as this A wave, and so we're done basically by January of 2022, and then we're starting to figure out the next way out. And then in that case, this box here would be over here, okay? You know what I'm saying? And that's because we compared this price action here with this sideways price action here, and in which case, yeah, it's interesting. Like this is a 1-to-1. So anyway, that would be that case, but I don't. So firstly, I don't know if that's what's happening, but that's basically the idea, is that that would be pretty close. So if we were, let's say, instead going to be a little bit longer than that. Oops, we started over here. Oops. Let's started at 1 back. Okay, let's say we want to go 1382 or even 1618 is around the June of 2022 timeframe. Okay, it goes to July. So, and then the 1382 is around April of 2022. Now, does it have to relate with this in terms of these Fibonacci numbers? No, but it just gives an idea. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that part of it. Okay, now let's compare, actually. Let's compare this. Okay, I will do this one too. Why not? Let's start it from here, this low, go to here. And we'll compare here. And yeah, even then, like that's a long time frame. That's half of this whole box. And so that's still like November of 2022. So again, this part was way bigger than this part here. And in fact, if we want to take this, because ultimately they're one-to-one, I want to show you something. Interestingly, the corrections in time are roughly or not close, but about 75%. And so it does diminish in terms of like it gets smaller in relative expansion. However, I also want to say, yeah, we can compare this one from down here if you want. And again, we get pretty close here, one-to-one if we're going to go half. It's around that same July 2022. So it's yeah, it's an interesting thought, but nothing you can really say for guaranteed. We're just looking at these options and ideas. Okay, so now we're going to take this little part of that 2013 move, the pause, and we'll compare with this current move, and we'll say, all right, one-to-one with that 2013 sideways move is here in October, the top here roughly, or November's top, whatever. But so it's right here, one-to-one. So we're already at a 1382. The 1618 matches with the, oops, undo that. The 1618 matches with the time level of the February month. You know, I have those in February. So the 1618. So if it is going to match, let's say by a Fibonacci number, 1618 seems reasonable if this is expanded by 1618 in this cycle. However, you know, we were seeing that things are contracting, it seemed. So, and if we were to compare this move up with, like, for example, the move up prior to this move up prior, I bet it wouldn't be the same. So maybe we'd actually have to start from here. But we're looking at, yeah, because we're looking at this whole move though. Yeah, this is where it becomes dicey and very speculative, and as the term goes, very dubious. Yeah, so what else? That's basically the idea though, is that we're already well beyond. And in fact, if we want to find like double that, if we're going to double this one, oops, I'll get that in a second. Then if we're going to double that, then we are roughly around April of 2022, where we're starting to get a little heated and back into it. You know, maybe the box is going to end around April, which is 2-to-1 compared to the 2013 move. Oops. So so that's basically some time ideas with that. Now we can start looking at, if we zoom in a little more closely, just looking at this move here, okay? So for that, let us go to the line chart and let's get right in there and say, okay, if we're looking Elliott wave style, you know, either we're starting right here, which is very likely. So I'm going to say here. Then that means we've got, let's say, some sort of 1, 2, and then a 3, and we're looking for our 4 before some sort of 5, okay, whenever that is. All right. And if that's the case, I mean, because the reason I say that is because, like, we can find them in previous runs, but it's this one that's expanding might also just be a like just the next piece can be much more complex than previous pieces. Okay, so that's basically, that was from the idea from before. All right, now, so what does it mean finding this for? Well, let's look at with time. So I'm going to just hide these boxes now. Okay. Because something doesn't always have to end at the low. And even this is like the low, but it's, you know, it could be a pattern that ends actually here. And maybe what we're seeing here is something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but this is just for time purposes. I like to start it right here for what we're doing. So let's do that. So we're going to compare now. We're going to compare if we imagine this being a 1 and now a 2 here, like some sort of you know, running correction or something like that, then we can, and now if it's even part of like an E wave here and we just start here, we're going to take like this. We're going to compare here. Okay. And now we're already at 2 to 1. So like, for example, this 4 wave would be twice as long as this 2 wave. So 3 to 1 brings us towards April of 2022. And then this is 5 to 1. So this is like 3.5 right here is our time frame in June of 2022. So there you go. That's if we're comparing to the previous move sideways. All right. I think I think that's basically it for now. I don't really have much more to say about the time relationships. Let's see. No, I think we're good. I mean, none of it really sticks to any specific, this is going to be what happens, but it just confirms more so ideas like the idea that, okay, it's going to be bigger than this move here. This non-directional sideways move is going to be bigger than this in terms of time. It's going to be longer time. And maybe this whole uptrending direction move here is going to be bigger than these, and it will take a bigger square to outline its whole move. And because of, yeah, let's say some complexity and expansion, right? What else? I think that's really it. We're definitely in a period of non-directional action, but I think the next thing to follow will be the directional action to the upside. Currently, just like we see here, non-directional action on this time frame can encompass moves from like 13,000 to 3,000. So massive drops of value or perceived value. However, having said that, it'll be interesting to see this next time period here, what's going to be coming. If we look here again, I'm just going to compare this move to this move here. Okay, and here's that 1-to-1. This move here, 1-to-1 with this whole correction. I get a good feeling about that. I do, and it doesn't have to be exactly 1-to-1. It could be the 1-3-8-2, and even the, well, like the 1-6-1-8. I mean, at that point, we're encompassing all of these time possibilities, right? But I get the sense that this type of degree is going to be more like this type of degree than this type of degree. If we're looking at the whole degree, sorry, not just this type of degree, I meant the whole degree. So if we're looking at that, then we're going so much further out, it looks like, right? Like 1-to-1 is all the way in 2023. Are we gonna really bear market for that? We really could. And in that case, then yeah, we're probably coming down to these 20,000s levels. And you know, the reason that would happen again is some sort of strong deflationary asset price deflation pressure where just prices tank. I mean, that is very possible. Price again, in deflationary asset deflation, where money is hard to get, you know, the fiat currency and all that, and the debt markets and all that. I mean, it's very complex, but it can be that prices of things can completely dump. So maybe it's part of a bigger degree. That's fine, of course, but even then, I see the price halfway. We've already gone there. And so at best, when we look at our retracement levels, I like the 88.6, but and also the 78.6, and whether it ends around here or whether it ends around here, it doesn't really matter. It's the sense is that this is going to be our non-directional action, and then we get to go higher. And so patience and wisdom are highly useful and valuable. So yeah, in the case that it's like severe asset price deflation, we could see that, where now we have the same degree, the whole thing is being played out here, but I don't think that's the case. Okay, so more so this type of degree, and that will give us, that'll give us something more along these lines here, which we're seeing already. Like, we could be done at the end of this month or by the end of January, beginning of February, and then boom, it's time to go. Where do we go next? Or it's done this move and then we kind of go sideways and then we're off around the June time. But, and again, yeah, maybe because other things are very deflationary and BTC holds up well, who knows? Maybe the other, you know, the other assets like stock market assets and stuff do similar. But anyway, overall, it's definitely an uncertain time. There's no doubt about it. Massively uncertain time. Hope you're keeping well. There's a lot to consider here. I want to do one last trend line to take a look at. So I'm going to hide you. Hide you. I'm going to hide you. Let's hide you. Let's hide you. Okay. So we're going to start from this area here. In fact, we're going to take the previous significant low and trend with this. So I think we have that already, but I'm not going to go fishing for it. I'm just going to do it again. So I get the sense that I don't know if we're going to be coming down to this trend line here. However, if we're starting our count here for this current move of whatever degree it is, we are very close to let's see here. So if we take this 0 to 2 trend line, it's been broken, right? So now we're finding our 0 to 4 trend line. So where is our 0 to 4 trend line going to be? Okay, that's the question. Where is the 4 going to end? Is it going to be this kind of 0 to 4 trend line? Oh, sorry, not 0 to 4, but we have our 0 to 2. It's being broken. Now we're trying to find 2 to 4. So we come up to, let's say, potentially where the 2 starts, and we say, okay, no, we say, okay, 2 to 4 trend line, where are you going to be? Are you here? Probably not. Are you here? That looks pretty decent. Let's do that. Maybe you're all the way over here. Okay, that's fine, but I get the sense you're probably like this somewhere. But yeah, anyway, even if you're like this, then you're much more, well, than this. We want to take this here. Okay. Yeah, so that is that idea right there. So we're just trying to wait and see where's the 2 to 4 trend line going to be. That way, when the price does go up, let's say, you know, whenever it does start going up and we hit that 140K or maybe the 160K, if we eventually break that trend line faster than than it took to create it, then then we know that we're probably done with this cycle, but then by then 170 became 100,000, so you missed a $70,000 move. But again, I mean, it's just ideas here. Okay, so that's the importance of the 2 to 4 trend line, is just to consider when is the 5th wave over, if that's what we're doing is an impulse. Okay, if it's an impulse. All right, and that's about it. I think I'm done for now. I hope you've enjoyed this general idea. I would like to hide this. I would like to remind you that you can subscribe if you haven't already, and just stick around for more videos, bringing you the Komodo platform and the Varus ecosystem network, Varus network. Whew, got the pirate chain, and we've also got others to talk about. So until then, though, we're just watching the BTC as well and enjoying what we have to offer here with the Bitcoin price chart here. So that's about it for now. I'm done. I guess with the time analysis might have been better to do it on the weekly, because then you have, you know, you have a little bit more differentiation, but it doesn't really matter. I don't care. So good luck, everyone. Until next time, you know, this trend line is being broken, so I don't think that this is the 2 to 4 trend line. I don't think. I think that probably we're going to find it wherever we find it, and you know, it's going to be something of a sight to see when the time comes. All right, everyone. Well, until next time, I'm wishing you well, and yeah, all the love, peace, and happiness, and stick around for more. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.